So currently you're too driven to hang out with your broke friends, but you're too broke to hang out with the people you look up to. This is what I call the tweener phase, and it is the loneliest part of becoming successful, but it is also by far the most important. And this is something that I really want to make a video on because I have been through this so many times. If you don't know my story, I have made millions, I've lost millions, I've made it back, I've lost it, I've made it. I have been through a complete roller coaster life, and I have been in this phase many times. And for me, it was the most depressing sometimes. It was the loneliest. The lessons that I was forced to learn from being alone will shape the rest of my life. So let's break down the tweener phase. Currently, you've outgrown all of your friends. You don't really connect with them anymore. You don't really connect with most of the people around you anymore because you know that you're destined for bigger things. But at the same time, you haven't made it into the rooms that you want to be in yet. The people that you want to eventually hang out with, they're not giving you the time of day yet because you haven't earned your spot to be around them. And in this time, you feel stuck, you feel confused, you feel alone. This is, again, the most roller coaster time of your life. You're too ambitious for the broke. You're too broke for the successful. That's the in-between, and that is when most people give up. A lot of your broke friends are calling you fake. They're saying you're too Hollywood. They're saying you're changing. And really quick, I don't want you to necessarily just completely cut them off cold turkey, but you need to set the correct boundaries. They should know not to say, hey, we're going out drinking, we're going out partying. If you want to have a coffee with them, if you want to catch up, that's great, but make sure you set those boundaries. And what you'll notice over time is you'll hang out with them less and less, and when you do, you're gonna start wanting to push them into entrepreneurship. You're gonna start to want to help them. And you'll see that some people just don't want to be helped. You can't help someone unless they want to be helped, right? And thank God people are like that, because if everyone was a successful entrepreneur, then successful entrepreneurs really wouldn't exist. You need the regular, everyday people to be themselves, and it's nothing against them. It doesn't make them less of a person. It doesn't make them a bad person. It just means that you are built different. But again, you wanna be the top 1%, right? That's not 99%. So you're not gonna fit in with 99% of the world. To make this visual, I'm going to give you guys an analogy, and I call it the Coca-Cola analogy. Let's say you have two glasses. One is filled with Coca-Cola and the other is filled with water. The Coke represents your old circle. The water represents those people that you want to eventually be around. Now, what most people do is they'll pour a little bit of Coke out of their glass to try to pour in water. You'll get rid of a couple of your friends and you'll try to make room for the new friends. But what happens? It doesn't work. You'll end up with half water, half Coke, which is just a nasty watered down Coke. What you have to do is you have to empty out your glass. Now, a lot of you guys think, okay, perfect. Now I poured out the Coke, I can put the water in, right? Now I got rid of the friends, now I jump into the new friends. No, that's not how it works. Because even when you pour out your Coca-Cola, your glass is still sticky. You have droplets of Coke everywhere. There's still residue. That is the old version of you. That's the identity. That's your habits, your current mindset. So now what you have to do is you have to clean out the glass. And this is the most annoying and painful part. It means reading, learning, getting uncomfortable, reinventing yourself completely, taking courses, mentors, trying new things. This is where you spend that time alone. This is where you grow and you evolve. And then once you clean that glass finally, it might take 6 months, it might take 2 years. Once your glass is finally clean, now you can pour in the water. And that's when the right people start coming in. The right mentors, business partners, high-level friends that you want. You have to change before your environment does. When you're in this transition phase, which is the tweener phase, you need to use the silence to build yourself. Work on your business, work on your communication, work on your mindset. Build the habits that future you are going to be proud of. But remember, you don't attract a new circle until you become something new. What I want you to be careful of, because sometimes I got sucked into this when I was younger, was the mental masturbation, where you jump from podcast to podcast, from self-help video to self-help video. You read books and books, and you never actually take action. The most important thing you can do is take action. If you watch a movie and it's a dope-ass movie, a superhero movie, you don't see anyone just sitting there watching YouTube videos. You don't see people scrolling through their phones. No, you don't see any of that. They're living life. They're taking action. They're learning from their own mistakes. You're only going to grow when you take action. The podcasts, the courses, the YouTube videos, these are going to help you. These are going to give you that jump start. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to take action. You're only going to grow from yourself. This is not the time to go chase women. This is not the time to be desperate for friends. Unfortunately, the way the world works usually is when you need people the most, that's when no one's there. When you need to find a mentor, that's when you can't find a mentor. Once you have the money, all of a sudden everyone comes to you, right? It's always when you don't need it that you have it. That's just the reality of the world. But thank God it's like that, because it forces you to make a change. No one is going to come and save you. You need to make that change for yourself. I promise you, no one is waking up every day and saying, how can I make Robert's life better? Another thing that I do is I like to set 90-day increments. So much can change in 90 days, guys. You have no idea what 90 days can do. You could transform your body. You can transform your entire life. You can transform your business. Anything can change in 90 days. You're going to tell yourself that by the end of this 90 days, I'm going to make my life unrecognizable. And I have done this probably 15 times now, and literally every single time my life is completely unrecognizable. Whether it's a new business, I moved to a new place, my body looks completely different. I feel like 90 days is the perfect amount of time where it's not too far away that these goals are unrealistic, and it's not too soon that you can't really grow. 90 days is the perfect in-between where so much can change and it's not that long. But look, if you're in the tweener phase, you're not alone. This part absolutely sucks, but it is so necessary. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. Once you become comfortable being by yourself, you take this time, you get closer to God, you realize that you don't need all these people around you. You don't need to constantly be hanging out with people. You get comfortable with yourself. You get comfortable in your own skin. Once you're truly at that point where you're like, I don't need anyone else, that's when everyone comes to you. But you have to be careful because in this time, your emotions are so all over the place, you tend to jump. The first business opportunity that comes, you might take it. If you're in a dry spout, the first woman that comes, you might take it. It's so important that in this time to stay level-headed. If you can stay level-headed, make reasonable decisions, not out of emotion, then you can do it at any time because this is the hardest time. There was times where I was so lonely that the first entrepreneur that was like-minded, that had money that I met, I was trying so hard to become their friend. I wanted to learn from them. I was almost too clingy. I wanted to be successful so bad. And while that's a great thing, you need to learn to channel it and only let it out in the times where it needs to come out. But anyways, those are words of wisdom. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone else who's going through this tweener phase. I want to make a lot of real, raw videos about the reality of business entrepreneurship. So my last message is to become the person who belongs in the rooms you want to be in.